If you had your camera moved to a different position, let's find out. Nope, it's all good. Okay, here we are. It's Friday. We're not vodcasting next week, so we gotta make this one count double. But it's not gonna be twice as long. It's just gonna be twice as quality. It's also almost an hour earlier than normal.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We're our own bosses. We are our own producers. We're our own video team. We do whatever we want. Honestly, that's what we do. They call it, and I learned this today, guerrilla streaming.
What?
Yeah, when you don't have a schedule that you stick to, you're a guerrilla streamer.
Okay.
You know, because the fighting techniques back in the war. You know what I'm saying? Back in the war. Yeah. So that's what it's all about. All right. So this is part 2 of. Oh, did I introduce this handsome boy right here? Look at this. Look at this handsome boy. This is a new CRASHDOM intern. Yet to be named Blue Kobold, younger brother of Borgus the Red, who was adopted earlier today and then was left all alone at High Tide Games with an uncertain future. Now, thanks to the generosity of our community, well, like 6 very generous people in our community, he lives here. So there he is. It's pretty big, right? Like, look at how his head's as big as my head. I mean, I have a pretty small head, you know what I'm saying? But like, that's big.
We gotta watch out. You're gonna poke an eye out with that spear.
Yeah, look at this dude. He's so freaking big. He's look in the camera. Hey, what's up? Look at that. This is not how big I thought kobolds were. If this is like the size of a piezo kobold, this is a big kobold. I don't know why I thought they were like toddler size. You know what I'm saying? This is child size. This is like the size of a human child. Sir, we have to do a podcast. The dogs were kind of okay until he got in the beanbag. Then they got real pissed. So, wife's pretty pissed about the beanbag situation too. I want him to live up here in my office, but I just don't know where I'm gonna fit an actual call. Anyways, let's focus on the podcast. All right. Okay. So last week we talked about how do you engage your players. This is the second part of that. So I guess if you didn't listen to last week's podcast, leave. No, I'm just kidding. Please stay. We need all the viewers we can get. So yeah.
Gotta leave that up to your life.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe we could break into the top 1.75% of VodCast. I don't know. 2% ain't enough for us, baby. Got to keep moving up. He is peeping over my shoulder. He's making me a little nervous. Okay. Is this what it's like to have a cat that actually is interested in what you're doing? Because it feels a little... All right. This week's topic, 3.5 minutes in. This week's topic is, how do you run adventures, short or long, that motivate the player characters to stay engaged, work together, and get invested? Last week we talked about the players, the human element of the players. Now, there's going to be some bleed over here, right? Because a lot of the techniques we talked about last week are aimed at the player characters, and through the player characters, it's to get them involved. But this is a little bit more than that. This is like, how do you get a bunch of bisexual misfits, to sum up everyone's summation of Baldur's Gate 3, right? How do you get a bunch of bisexual misfits to get along, right? How do you put that get along shirt on? How can my paladin who hates undead possibly work with your undead necromancer who loves making undead? Like, how can we ever possibly make it work, right? That's really what we're trying to talk about today, right? Is making the impossible possible, making the ultimate team ups actually team up. So, let's just jump into it. Robot provided us these talking points. Or do you have something to add before we begin?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like what we talked about last time, the first thing in this is the setting expectations and having a good group. Because this is only going to work if you kind of have those two things. But there's a slight differentiation between the expectations in this part. For all of this to really work, you have to be able to set the expectations for your players, and then have your players make characters for the adventure.
Absolutely, right? If the example I gave, right, of I'm a paladin who hates undead, well, I'm an undead who loves undead. Okay, well, here's the thing. We shouldn't be here in this situation unless we wanted to be here, right?
Yeah.
So that example I gave, I'm not talking about fixing a problem that already exists. I'm talking about, like, you know, creating a game where something like that can actually work.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people are like, but I need to fix the game that I'm already in. And we'll try to address that too. So if you're in chat and you have questions and you have problems, we can try to address them on this topic. So let's see.
Yeah.
Talking points, character-driven goals. Embedding personal character goals within the adventure to encourage individual investment, which we talked about last week, right? We want to individually invest. That makes sense. But we need people to be connected, right? We want to connect. We want to make player-character connections. We want people with completely different characters to all have reasons to work together and all have reasons to care about each other. So having character-driven goals is important for that initial engagement, but what's number 2?
So, I mean, before we move forward, the character-driven goals part, for that, one of the easiest things to do that is to just, and I guess, well, now that I think about it, they're kind of both, but 1 and 2 are kind of intertwined in this. So part of having character-driven goals is making sure that the goal of the adventure is also the goal of the player characters, and sometimes that might involve you as a you know, the GM, kind of changing the goals of the campaign to work with their character goals. And a perfect example of this is your 2 Ghost of Saltmarsh campaigns. They both had very different character goals, but they also all did the same, pretty much the same. They did
the same campaign with the same major plot points, but they did them in different order and for different reasons with a different final outcome. Absolutely.
And as a GM, you were flexible enough to make adjustments to the adventure to, you know, work with their characters' goals.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the part about character-driven goals that I want to get across, is that sometimes you may have to make adjustments to the adventure to work with the character goals that the group has kind of, you know, developed.
Especially if they have agreed upon goals, right? Because how rare is that for an entire group of people who are in a simulation, essentially, where they're allowed to, you know, misbehave a little bit, right? They don't have to, you know, get along to get along, right? This is their chance to kind of explore and push boundaries. We talked about that in other things about murder hobos and all that kind of stuff. So imagine you have these people at the table, and organically on their own, they have a shared character-driven goals that they want to do. Like, you better make sure that that's suddenly a part of the adventure, right? You don't want to be like, well, yeah, I'm glad you guys all finally fucking agree on something, but that's not part of this campaign. That's the wrong answer. That's the wrong answer. Yeah, you need to be able to make that work, even if it's just the dumbest idea. And I've had some old school DMs kind of take me aside and say, hey man, I'm always impressed that you are able to not only have the patience for these youngster gamers, right? These younger D&D tabletop players, but that in addition to being patient with them, you lean into and embrace what are honestly some of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard of. And I'm just like, and it's like, damn, guys, you know, like, it can't always be Ninja SWAT team perfectly completing a dungeon like it was, you know, back in the olden days, right? Like, this is a time to explore and have fun and be goofy and be silly, and I feel like that's always been a part of D&D, even in the Gronard 2nd edition days. So for me, it's not a hard thing to just be like, okay, whale on a house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess we're going to try to make Whale in a House work, right? Like, whatever they're trying to do, try to make it work, right? Because if they're working together, right? If they all want something to happen together, we at least need to try and go along with them. Maybe it doesn't mean that they automatically succeed. That's important.
Yes, that's 100%. Like, they could fail together, but the idea is to explore their if they're together, that's the best part. You want to support them being together.
If all 4 or 5, God forbid 6, 7 of them, all are like, yeah, bro, this is our goal. This is what we want to do. And you're thinking to yourself, this is a terrible idea. This will never work. Doesn't matter. If that's what they all want to do, if they're all in agreement, try to make that work, please. I didn't say make it succeed. Just to try to make it work. Try to put it into the game so that they can engage with it together. Mm-hmm. All right, nice. So, second item. Oh, no, still got more on the first.
One last thing on that thing. If the kind of flip side, if you don't do it, usually you end up having those moments where, maybe a couple of people are like, okay, this is the idea I want. And then you have that one other player character who's like, yeah, this is not a really good idea. We shouldn't be doing this. And that's one of those ways where, like, okay, well, I mean, you guys are at an impasse. What do you do? Like the game kind of slows down in there if you're not there supporting the idea of, hey, you guys have an idea, you can always try it out, see what happens.
Could you imagine a game where everybody wants to do something except one person, and that one person's like so scared that they don't, like, we shouldn't do this, but then the group does that thing anyways, and then it ends up being a fucking fiasco, just an absolute nightmare. And then the one guy that was like, I wish we hadn't done that, does not then go, I told you so. If there's such a player out there, thumbs up to that player, if there's ever been a scenario like that. Anyways, just a random example. All right, so number 2, you're doing this right now for your Stolen Fate, or no, your Strike 1,000. I'm doing Stolen Fate. I
also did this for Cyberpunk as well.
Okay, so walk us through it.
Okay, so the idea here is that from the get-go at character creation, one good way to keep the characters working together is to make sure they have a history together, and make sure that history is also positive. If you want, like, so in Cyberpunk, when I had all the characters, because it's set up in like a everybody's mercenaries pretty much. They got to have a reason to stay as a mercenary group. There's no stakes are low. They're not, there's no like I'm saving the world type of thing here. There's no like bigger goal like that. You guys are trying to make money, and so the one reason, there has to be a reason for why you guys are working together to make money and not working with somebody else. And so what I told everybody is that at random, everybody is going to have some type of connection to another PC's character from the get-go. Like some type of history. You have to have some way they're related to you and your backstory. Not necessarily like a relative, but like you guys worked together before. You guys, have known each other. Maybe you went to school together, whatever. But as long as you have a positive, and this positive doesn't mean necessarily it has to be like good. You guys can be rivals. Rivals is like a positive connection. But there has to be some type of connection that keeps you working with this person, despite your differences.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing that with Strength of Thousands now, where all these people are all entering this school together. They're going to be a team throughout the entire time. For that adventure, it takes over the course of years, at least 5 years. So they're going to be together for a while, and a lot of people change over there, but you want to make sure that there's a reason for them to stick together. And so when I've asked all of my players, I'm probably going to do this moving forward from now on with almost all my campaigns, is to have the characters have an interconnected backstory between the two of them, between all of them. So one character has a connection to two other characters.
No, it's a great idea. This is something that I've encouraged in the past, but never required. Right, and seeing it on this list, seeing it in play in 2 of your campaigns now, I'm coming around to the idea that you know what, I like that. I like that automatic buy-in You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In the Curse of Strahd games, right, it was very much like, oh, does anybody know anybody else? And some people were like, oh yeah, it'd be fun if, if you're my cousin, or, you and I work for the same agent, or whatever. But it wasn't like you have to, right? I was, I was concerned with the human player buy-in, right? So I'm like, make a companion character. That companion character is going to be your tie to the game. But really, more powerful than that would have been interconnecting those actual characters, the player characters, interconnecting them. We had that very well and very organically in Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like everyone in Wild Beyond the Witchlight kind of knew most of the other characters because it was like a sitcom bar. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a bar where they would all go and they all knew each other because they were regulars at the same bar. And then outside of that, we learned that there was more depth to it, right? Besides just working at the bar. Like, I'm a private investigator. One of my common things is to find missing pets. Well, that's why I'm friends with the local dog catcher, because he can tip me off if, he catches some dogs or whatever, or a cat or whatever. So, yeah. And then there was, it was cool like that, right? There was, And that, I think, immediately, because I'm re-listening to the series, in the first episode, there was a gelling, right, in the group, because you guys knew, we all know each other, right? There's a comfort there. We're already friends. We don't have to, you guys met in a tavern, right? Modern isekai style, you met in a tavern, but you had already met, right? It wasn't that awkward, speed dating, thrown together by a patron kind of thing. You guys organically had that already built. And I think that made for a stronger connection.
Yeah. It also, and for any time, it makes it so that, when those moments where, someone's down, do I save them or do I run? It makes it it makes it even more realistic that the character will stay and try and protect them, rather than the player just not wanting to not try to save another player's character.
If I'm one of 5 mercenaries that has been hired independently and forced to work with 4 other mercenaries because our patron is paying me to, at the end of the day, I'm gonna be like, fuck these guys. Do you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna die here, right? But if it's my cousin, if it's my uncle, if it's my brother, if it's my former lover turned rival, if I have guidance, roleplay guidance that no, these people matter, right? There's gonna be a bit more thing. An adventure that has this built in, that looking back, I kind of wish I had done a bit more of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight in those campaigns, is Odyssey of the Dragonlords. Odyssey of the Dragonlords says, here's 4 to 6 random motherfuckers, and they have all been recruited to do this task. But then they bond over the completion of that task, and then the follow-up to that, right? And then they are encouraged by their patron to swear an oath of fellowship, which is mechanically you are now all invested. You are all invested now. Another thing you could do in this same kind of thing is, instead of an oath of fellowship, think about Suicide Squad, right? Y'all have you all have bombs in your brains.
I mean,
if you fail this mission, I'll kill all y'all motherfuckers. So you better hope that you succeed. If you don't, you all die. So you are now invested in the success of everyone else in this party, even though they're evil, even though they're crazy, even though you hate them. Doesn't matter. Their lives are your lives. You're all connected now. And yeah, Baldur's Gate, perfect, right? These are characters that didn't know each other beforehand. None of them knew each other beforehand, even though a lot of them were from the same city. And the DM, as it were, right, the writing team, they were like, well, you're the only ones that can kind of help each other out, and also you're psychically connected. So what are you gonna do? That's powerful. That's a really good boom. There you go. And that takes us into a number 3, shared stakes. There it is. So creating a central plot point that holds significant stakes for all characters, motivating them to unite for a common cause. So Suicide Squad, if you fail, you all fail. Baldur's Gate, only these other strangers can possibly understand what you're going through, because what you're going through is so weird and so crazy. No one even believes that it's happening except the other people that you're with. And then people that you tell about it, their first instinct is to kill you. So you don't have a lot of options for teammates. These are the people that you're stuck with, so make it work. And then, of course, like the Odyssey of the Dragonlords thing, a magically binding oath that you are now in it together. What one of you does reflects on all of you. Monitor your friend's behavior because their behavior is your behavior. So there are ways to kind of create those shared stakes mechanically, and also socially engineering them as well. So I like that. I like that quite a bit.
Yep.
All right, so why don't you take us to number 4? Mythic Maya. Why don't you take us to number 4?
All right.
All right.
I mean, the part about these is that it promotes discussion. So a moral dilemma introduces complex moral choices that require group decisions and decision making, strengthening team dynamics. That's part of the strengthening team dynamics is the important part. Give the characters a hard choice and have them have time to discuss it. Give them time to discuss it. It may not work for all players behind it, but like it's something that's there to help flesh out and get people to think things through and come up with a shared goal. And then once they have a shared goal or shared decision on something like this, then you have it, like all of them are in agreement. They're most likely going to work together to complete that goal. This is more like this is one of the tools to help you strengthen that team dynamic. It also could it's a double-edged sword, so it also could throw it apart.
Oh,
too.
absolutely. And I keep going back to Odyssey of the Dragonlords, but I mean it's well known that it's one of my favorite campaigns ever written. I think it's probably the best homebrew adventure for 5th edition. And it is full of moral dilemmas, right? Because you are walking in the shadow, in the footsteps, right, of this order of knights who came before you, but they are from an earlier age, right? They're from an earlier age of magic, right? Where if something looked monstrous, you killed it, right? Like, if people didn't look like you could kill them and you were a hero, right? They were heroes from an earlier age with different standards and different beliefs and different, expectations. And the question is, do you walk that same path or do you find a new way to do it, right? And what is that new way? And are your modern values are they shitting on the traditions of this order, or are they standing up to the injustice that may have been present in that earlier age? And it's deep, right? Like all these kind of things with moral dilemmas, the best ones, you're never 100% sure if you made the right choice, right? Like, yeah, and that is the exercise there of the players and their player characters, right? Is like, it's such a role-playing challenge because you have to separate as a human player how you feel about the moral dilemma, and you have to approach it, how would your character do it, right? So right away, everyone's forced into this role-playing scenario, so there's engagement right there. And then, in addition to how my character would deal with this moral dilemma, I still have to find a way through that doesn't put me in opposition of the rest of the party, right? Because we have interconnected backstories, we have shared character-driven goals, and we have shared stakes. So I can't afford to lose these allies because I can't bend on this particular moral dilemma. I would say that while this is a very powerful tool, like you said, it is a double-edged sword. Not every group is going to walk away from a moral dilemma intact. right? Because these are things that can become very heated, and they can touch on real world politics, real world religious beliefs. I would definitely say that moral dilemmas, if there's going to be a lot of them in the game, something to talk about in Session 0. I hope that I mentioned moral dilemmas when I did my Session 0s for Curse of Strahd, because obviously there's a ton there, because Gothic horror is very much the erosion of goodness, right? So, like, how long can you hold on to your morals? How long can you hold on to being good, being decent? Would you die a good man if you had to? Or would you abandon those ideals to live, right? Like, what are you willing to do? Not every campaign needs this. Some people just really want to show up and have some fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people really just want to show up and have some fun. So be careful with moral dilemmas, but know that it's a very powerful tool. Very powerful tool. Yeah. Here we go. Number 5, unique character roles. Oh, baby. So, I'm not saying that, Pathfinder's cool. I'm not saying that I'm not a Pathfinder kid, okay? I just, there's a life-size kobold next to me, and I'm running a bunch of Pathfinder games. That doesn't mean that I'm a Pathfinder kid. I want that to be clear. I'm not a Pathfinder kid. That's very important that you know that I'm not a Pathfinder kid. But I will tell you this. Pathfinder 2 does a much better job of making character roles matter. I am going to tell you that. 5e, it's very easy to make a character who can do everything. And when you have made a character who can do everything, why would they be connected to the rest of the party? Like, why would they need the rest of the party, right? They don't. Yep. They don't need the rest of the party, is what it comes down to, because they can do everything themselves. I feel that that's impossible to do with the way Pathfinder 2 is set up. It is impossible to make a character who could cover every scenario. And if you are not covering scenarios in Pathfinder 2, you will die, because it is not a joke. Like, it is a pretty hard game, and it's got pretty punishing mechanics and pretty punishing math. So if you don't have a balanced party, and this is something we've talked about many times, if you don't have a balanced party, you will die. You will not succeed. You will have a bad time. So those roles matter. Let's a random example. Let's say you're just really unlucky at dice. So make a healer, because no one else wants to be the healer, and being a healer in Pathfinder 2 matters so damn much that no one will care how shitty your rolls are, because you're the healer. You are healing them. You know what I'm saying?
Unless your healing rolls, you failed those medicine checks.
Well, I mean, be a divine healer that actually just has guaranteed healing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you roll really bad on those healing dice.
Hey, listen.
Bad dice rolls are just bad dice rolls. Sometimes. Oof.
I don't know. Here's the thing. I'll take a bad cleric. A bad rolls cleric. I'll take a bad rolls cleric.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, I'll take a bad rolls cleric over no cleric. There is no real need for a cleric in 5e, because anybody that's got healing word, that's it. That's the whole healing system. We're done, right? With with resetting death saves and the yo-yo of life and all that nonsense. There's just no need. Yeah. Now with homebrew, yes, you can create something like that. There is a certain red-headed character in Curse of Strahd that is pivotal to the plot, but my research on the campaign said that many times this character is abandoned, mistreated, or not even allowed to join the party. So I was like, I got to make sure that this character is loved. Right? I got to make sure that this character is important to the team. Well, with the homebrew that I laid out, there was a need for healing. There was a need for a medical professional who could set bones and cure diseases and identify sickness and poisons, and just a person that would keep you patched up and together. And nobody really wants to be that in 5e, right? They want to be out there dropping big damage and, getting up in the monsters' faces and stuff like that. So making this NPC, that healer role, connected them immediately to the group, right? Because the group was like, this person's keeping us alive. Like, it doesn't matter if they're a little obnoxious. It doesn't matter that it's a liability sometimes to have them around. Like, we need them around. This person's important to us. And that role starts to kind of build up. In the same way, because we have an injury system and all that other homebrew, people that are willing to go up front and get hit by the monster, they matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, people that can go up and risk getting like a broken leg, a punctured lung, have their hand bit off, have their leg destroyed, right? Like, the rest of the party cannot help but respect those characters because they're like better than me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, thank God, right? Like, thank God they're going up there and taking those hits. And the people up front, maybe they're not dealing the big dick damage, but they're taking those hits so that the DPS people can actually kill the monsters. And so they're appreciative of these damage dealers who are going in and killing the monsters before they get killed. And then if they're almost dead, that healer comes in and patches them up. It creates an ecosystem. It creates a family, a dynamic, right? Everyone is doing something to help. If you're running a game that doesn't really support unique character roles, you're losing out on a powerful tool to connect everybody together. Yeah. Now, outside of combat, in 5e, you do have the face character, you do have the skill monkey, you do have, the DPSer, you do have, quote-unquote, the healer. Like, you do have roles, but I feel like the builds are so flexible, especially if you roll for stats. Never roll for stats, guys. If you roll for stats and you've got somebody that's got amazing stats and everything, they've got all the skills, they've got all the spells, they've got everything good, you let them multi-class as much as they want, they're just not going to need anyone else in the group, right? You don't want that. Like, there's a certain, the structure of the class system, if you actually respect it and use it, it will make this happen. It will create a party dynamic for you.
Yeah. Part of this is making the party the main character instead of a person.
Right.
Instead of a player. Instead of a character.
Exactly. All right, so my thing about a certain redhead bleeds over into number 6. So, Dom.
Dynamic NPCs. Yeah, okay. So this is something you're really good at, making the NPCs, what'd you call it? Engaging to the point where, the characters want to help them, or want to, rally behind, getting back at them, or, you have an NPC that all the characters hate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the central goal for them to work together on getting back at this character they all hate, or this is a character they need to protect, and they want to protect. So they all get behind protecting them. And then you'll get those characters that are like their biggest fans. They don't feel like they need to protect them, but this character is like, okay, this character has our back, so we need to live up to their expectations because they're proud of us, or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's really good to have an NPC there, and like the word about it doesn't necessarily have to be an NPC. It could be the environment too. It could be like a city. It could be like it has to be something in the setting that is there that the PCs can rally behind. An
anchor,
anchor them. Yeah. A goalpost for them.
Yeah. This has been, for me, it's always been, and we've talked about it in other VodCasts, dynamic NPCs are one of the most powerful storytelling tools that you have. Because they are your direct connection to the player characters and the players. Like, they are how you actually engage and interact with them in the world, right? Like, flavor text is great, but it's only going to take you so far. A well-designed combat encounter is cool. It's only going to take you so far. Really cool world building is great, but at the end of the day, it's just a place, right? It doesn't have any life yet, right? The people give it life, right? The people give it life. And it's for that reason that, like, on VTT, for example, I will throw down like crowd tokens when they're on a crowded street, or just scatter NPCs around a tavern, because like just seeing that stuff shows them that the world is not empty, right? That the world exists, that it's alive, right? That there is something here to protect, that there is something living and breathing and real that they are a part of, right? And like it's very subtle, but like this stuff is the reason you do this instead of a video game, right? You are giving up 3 hours of quality free time that you could play all of the amazing video games that exist, watch all of the incredible shows, read all the amazing books. They're giving that stuff up to play in your game. This is what makes your thing different, right? Is that organic life that you breathe into it through the NPCs in the world. Yeah. We've never actually had a stream where we talked about Final Fantasy 16, but one of the things that I loved about Final Fantasy 16, and I think we have mentioned this, is the stupid side quest, right? Like, in that game, without too many spoilers, you're, like, pretty strong. Let's just put it that way. You're pretty strong. You're a pretty strong guy, and you've got some pretty strong friends. You're way too strong to be helping someone with their grocery shopping. Do you know what I'm saying? But, like, they have quests like that are just so beneath you, right? But, like, those are the ones that when everything gets real serious, like, hit me real hard, right? Because the character was not just some badass anime dude. He was a guy who desperately wanted to be a part of the world he lived in, right? Like, he wanted to be a normal man, helping his neighbors, helping his community, living a normal life, right? And so, like, these opportunities to just go out and do normal things, they connected him, and therefore me, the player, to the world in a way that most video games don't, right? Because, like, it's like, like, and I would joke with my wife, because we played through the game together, like, that this is just it's so dumb. Like, these quests are so dumb, but also, like, important. Like, it's really important. Like, and the more you do of them and the more you play of that game, you understand just how important that stuff was for, like, the story and the characters and everything else like that. And like, a dynamic NPC can be something so simple. You know what I'm saying? It could be like the local bartender who is just so thankful that the party got rid of them Gerblin bandits that he names a beer after them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's enough. Like, they have a beer named after them. You know what I'm saying? That's great. Like, it's these little tiny things that, like, create the verisimilitude that you are now engaged with, right? Like, you are the world. You're a part of the world now. All right.
And so, like, having those dynamic NPCs is definitely there for something for all the characters in that world to find a connection to the world. And a lot of the times, like, kind of ever since we stopped at the stakes part and we had the moral dilemmas, the unique character roles, and the dynamic NPCs, kind of all of those are somewhat related to the three above too, in terms of getting the characters connected. One of the things that a shared stake could be protecting a dynamic NPC.
Yeah.
You know, what you call it, a interconnected backstory can lead to why you guys have your unique character roles. You know, so, like, you know, these things here kind of all. Those top three are really on, like, high level stuff, and these things that we've been going through right now are more tools to help you get those three things at the top.
So Jorgen says, in the games that I've run, the NPC that got the party together the most was Kyra, again from Odyssey. Yeah, and this is another character, without any spoilers, that if you research that campaign, a lot of groups hated her, thought she was annoying, didn't want her around, felt like she was a DM NPC, but, like, the DMs that took the time to figure out a way to play her and make her dynamic and important, like, the payout was just huge. Like, the payout is just huge when you have that. Yeah. All right. So, moving away from dynamic NPCs to reward teamwork. All right. Implementing rewards and benefits for collaborative efforts, reinforcing the value of working together. So, not to be a Pathfinder fanboy again, but like, man, after a year of Pathfinder 2, let me tell you something. When Remy's character would burn their reaction to give someone a +3 to their attack roll, which would then allow that person to get a critical hit, that felt fucking good. Like, that's good stuff. Yeah. When I go to do something and I am bolstered, well, I say bolstered, but I am supported by the rest of the group to accomplish that thing. It's like, hey, whatever. Would a Pathfinder kid have a life-size Paizo kobold in their office? I don't think so.
Yes.
Anyways, so well, here, I'm gonna put a little hat on him so you guys can't tell that he's a Paizo kobold. He could be any kobold.
Oh no, we could tell. No. If your snout is the head, yes, it's a Pathfinder kobold.
No, look, he's got a hat on now. See, he's fine. He's got a little hat on. All right. So, anyways, these teamwork reward good. I like how Pathfinder has it baked into the system. You know who else excels? I dare say they excel too much at rewarding teamwork. Well, 5th edition. Hey, I'm gonna try to do this thing. I'll help. Are you in any way qualified to help? Nope. I help him. I'm gonna help him. Help him. Friendship. Helping. Okay. Well, roll 2 dice and take the best number every time you do something. Every time you do something, roll 2 dice to take the best number because of the magic of friendship in the 5th Age of Magic. I don't think the DM's got to do fucking anything in this regard. If you're playing Pathfinder 2 or you're playing 5th Edition D&D, you don't got to do anything. It's baked into the system, baby. They reward friendship and teamwork for days. It's like winning the lottery. They just keep handing out prizes for friendship and teamwork. It's still not enough. Add +2 flanking to your game in 5e. Now you got even more friendship. Like, we got no shortage. There's no shortage of rewarding teamwork in either of those platforms. I cannot speak to Vampire because I don't really know enough about it yet. I've only played twice? ? Cyberpunk, they got any built-in rewards for teamwork?
Yes, there are some things. One of the biggest things for rewarding teamwork is the fact that there's so many skills. Not everybody can have them, so you need to have somebody to have those other skills to help you do something. And then the other thing is they do have this thing called complementary skill checks. So somebody can roll the skill check to give somebody else a +1 on something on their next skill check.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it says here reward teamwork, and I'm saying that you don't need to worry about it because it's already done. However, there's more to it than that, right? Earlier, we said character-driven goals. If they have a shared goal, you need to try and support it. Well, that's what we're talking about here with rewarding teamwork. Is dropping a whale on the house sound like a very broken, stupid thing to allow? It is. And any DM that has allowed such a thing in this game should probably lose his license twice. Here's the thing, though. It's really fun. You know what I'm saying? It's really fun. It's really cool. And as long as
one of the things about that too is that all of them took part into making that happen. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why it worked. What
if I told you that there's a third group that also had a lot of whale shenanigans?
Oh boy.
Right? Yeah. So and different whale shenanigans than the other two groups. And some that group had some whale shenanigans that we couldn't breathe. We were laughing so hard. There was some real whale shenanigans. Anyways, whales or no whales, here's the thing. Rewarding teamwork doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you guys did great, here's a bunch of magic items, right? It could be as simple as, that was great teamwork, everyone gets a hero point. Or that was great teamwork, everybody gets an inspiration. This is you socially engineering the group to say, I love you when you do teamwork. You're good players. Pat, pat, pat. Here's treats. It doesn't have to be something that's going to break your game. The king doesn't have to say, well, that teamwork was amazing. Here's an airship. No, it doesn't have to be like that. It's little things is fine.
You know what's even smaller than that, but also can be really big. Is just a happy explanation of enjoyment from their favorite NPC.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
Their favorite NPC was like, man, that's great. You guys did awesome. I'm glad you did it that way. That's enough. Sometimes.
Yeah. Little things go a long way, especially when it comes to attaboys. But here's the thing. You gotta at least give them something. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't complain that there's not enough teamwork if you're not recognizing and pointing out and positively reinforcing the teamwork that does happen.
Speaking about Pathfinder 2, I love that they have that. There's that one mod that we have that's called Modifiers Matter, where it's like, if this person is like off guard because this other person, it lets you know that, hey, you critically hit this person because your friend over there, did this. And it helps reinforcing that idea that, hey, you guys are working you guys are working together and doing teamwork. And look, you see, because of this teamwork, you're getting stuff is happening that's you want.
Yeah, and to give some love to 5e, that also happens, but in a much more simple way, right? You say, well, you would have failed this saving throw and been disintegrated, but your friend gave you advantage, so you didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure you point that stuff out. It seems obvious, right? You're probably like, everyone could see that they made the save because they had advantage. It's not like we're stupid. Like, everyone knows how advantage works. No! You are the father figure, the mother figure, the authority figure. You are the boss, okay, as the DM. It matters to them if you actually point out when the teamwork mattered. It does psychologically matter to them that you point it out. It really does. If this kind of stuff makes you uncomfortable, put it on your list of things to work on, because you have to get better at this. All right. Let's see.
Varied challenges.
All right. Varied challenges. All right, to you.
Yeah, varied challenges. Design a mix of puzzles, combat, social encounters that require different skills. Encourage players to rely on each other's strengths. So this is very important in Cyberpunk because there's so many skills, and you have such a limited number of points, and all those skills can show up at some other point, and you never know who's there, who's gonna have it. This happens in any of them really, any of the three that we've been playing. I'm not sure how it works in Vampire, but I'm pretty sure it works in there too. You're never going to be good at every. Okay, never mind. Maybe in 5e sometimes, but
right, yeah,
you're not supposed to be good. You're not supposed to be good at everything. So the idea is that the reason why you're working with these your characters working with these other PCs because they cover your weaknesses.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can only appreciate that. You can only appreciate that if you're varying the gameplay. One of the big pitfalls that we ran into playing Abomination Vaults is I straight up asked the DM. I was like, "Can you run this as close to raw as possible?" Right? And Ashwin was like, "Sure. I love it raw." You could put that on his gravestone. He said, "Sure, I love it raw." So I don't know what that means. Maybe it's chicken. Maybe it's the rules. Who knows?
Sushi,
Yeah, sure. So we ran it raw, and there was not a lot of anything except getting our asses kicked, and it made it hard to appreciate the whole game that is Pathfinder 2, because for us, every Tuesday night was just suffering. You know what I'm saying? And occasionally there were traps, which is a different aspect of play. But mostly it was just combat. It was just a lot of combat. And it was hard for us to be like not hating on fighters, right? Because like if you're going to be fighting 95% of the time, why wouldn't you want a plus 10% chance to hit and critically hit enemies? Like, why wouldn't you want opportunity attacks on tap? Like, why wouldn't you want to be the best at that? Nowadays, running more dynamic campaigns, there are times in my Outlaw games where the gunslingers, they've learned, like, when combat over, they're kind of like, I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, I shoot gun. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I shoot gun. Like, do you need me to shoot something? Because I don't know what to do. Like, so there are these opportunities there, right? And
Yep.
there with haunts and hazards and things like that. Like, you could shoot this invincible ghost all you want. You're not going to kill it, right? You're going to need someone else to go in and finish, you know, and exercise that spirit or solve their riddle or whatever. By having these varied challenges, it allows everyone to have value, right? And it makes the other people appreciate that value. And here's the thing I'm going to say. This has more value if these varied aspects of play are also killing you. So hear me out. I mentioned hazards and haunts. These things are killing you, like, constantly. Like, they're like, your life is in danger. So it's not necessarily combat, but it's still combat, right? Like, if they don't disarm this hazard, if they don't exercise this spirit, everyone will still die. So the people that normally save the day from these life or death situations, they are out of a job right now, right? They can't do the job that they normally do. And now they get to feel what it feels like to have to rely on someone else to save them, right? So I think that's really good. I think one of the places that this kind of can be weak is I'm a fighter guy. I made a fighter because I like fighting. It's the only pillar of play that I like. So when we are going to a dance or a gala or whatever, I don't give a shit about that, right? Like, nothing bad's going to happen to me. The worst thing that happens is we get into a fight, and that's what I'm good at. So if the social skills fail, I'm back on, baby. So, like, it's a win-win for me. So there has to be some consequences of failing these other pillars of play that would still be impactful to people that prefer the other pillars of play, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That makes 100% sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe if you don't do well, you guys have to pay a fee, right? Well, fighter don't want to pay a fee. Fighter
need to pay for his equipment.
Yeah, fighter need to pay for equipment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if there's a consequence to these other aspects of play that can be felt. Exactly.
Yeah, this goes back to that shared stakes.
Exactly. Yep. Right back up here to shared stakes. Shared stakes in every pillar of play. Suddenly, those pillars of play matter, right? Mm-hmm. That's the big pitfall I see with 5e design a lot of times is the McFighters are like, good, I'm glad you failed this social encounter because now we get to fight. I didn't want to have a social encounter. This is awesome. But if failing the social encounter means, you guys don't get these resources. You guys, your NPC that you love, they're arrested now. Like, like if there's actual real consequences.
We failed a social encounter. You're gonna have to pay us that sword that fighter has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you gotta make consequences there for people. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see. Oh, somebody said, "Are their faces frozen?" All right, hold on. Let me go to.
No, I'm watching right now. We're pretty good. So every once in a while, that does a little bit of a freeze, but we keep moving.
Yeah, my router it's almost dead. I got to make it to Monday. We got new internet on Monday. All right, what's next?
Ongoing mysteries.
Okay.
Yeah. Weaving in mysteries or a long-term quest that can only be solved through collaborative effort and persistent engagement. Okay, so I'm feeling this right now with Cyberpunk. We're getting close to the end. But yeah, like for the past since the beginning of the campaign, I've been like seeding in little things, just throwing in little catches, and like some of the quests they've done have seemed to not have anything to do anything, but like maybe. And as we're getting close to the end, I think we talked about this last time too, with the whole like drip feeding. Like you never want to hold that secret back for until the end. You want to drip feed. Part of this is also in terms of keeping the characters engaged, is making sure that the characters are progressing. Like sure, the players might, know what's going on and figure out what's going on in the back, but part of this ongoing mystery is making sure that the characters themselves know that they're progressing and getting that little bit of stuff to keep going, so they can still continue to work together and make it to that end and make that, have that realization or figure out whatever they're trying to do, and be engaged with each other. And it could be part of this could be like, making sure that that varied part of like going back, back up the list, how this list all compounds on itself. Having those varied versions of combat and rewarding teamwork, maybe that ongoing little drip feed of something that one character is wants to know about can be achieved by, having another character who's good at this other pillar of play, succeed.
So
like maybe that fighter is looking for their sister, but the only way you can find out about that sister is if the face can, talk some into this.
That's good. That's
dance.
real good. Yeah. Like this person, you just can't beat the information out of them. Like it has to be obtained some other way. So there's that reliance on each other to move that mystery forward. I like that. Built-in design, Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, epic paths, tying the characters to the story. One thing I wish that design had done, and I don't blame them because it was, in my opinion, pretty groundbreaking design work for a campaign to build the characters into the story by having slots that you slot them into. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. I do wish that each of the paths was forced to interplay with other paths, right? So as you're running that campaign, you're running that campaign, it says, the dragon, the dragon slayer in the if the dragon slayer's in the party, this happens, or if the cursed one's in the party, this happens, or if the haunted one's in the party, this happens. But very, if not at all, right? Sometimes there's conflict that's created, but there's never like this person, right? This path and this path are linked, right? That would have been so cool.
Or at least will intersect at this point.
Right. Yeah, that would have been pretty cool to have that sort of like baked in. That would have been pretty nice. All right, and then we've got ongoing mysteries. We definitely hyped that up last week, and I feel that a mystery that they solve together is important. And as you said, making parts of that mystery locked behind challenges and things that only teamwork could unlock, that's really pushing it, right? That's pushing that narrative of all of the PCs work together and are engaged. All right, so last one is player input, encouraging players to contribute ideas for story elements and character development, fostering a sense of ownership and investment in the narrative. So that's more like everything we talked about last week, right? So you can't get the player characters involved if you don't have the players involved. So for number 10, go listen to last week's podcast. Because we don't got time to tell you in the 2 minutes that remain, I guess, on that thing. Also, I received this slanderous image just now. It says, not a Pathfinder kobold, not a Pathfinder kid. Yeah. I got feels about it. Man, I feel seen. I do feel seen, so I like that. But I feel a little called out. So
you need the what's that sound from the We'll Be Right Back?
Well, it's even worse because if you look next to my head, there is another Paizo kobold because I have the little stuffed animal, the little red stuffed animal kobold back there as well. So it's real bad. It's real bad, guys. I got it real bad. All right. So with all of that, hey, listen, I didn't make the meme, okay? Like they claim that the Path Diner was on purpose. Like anyways. So what does anybody have before we wrap this up? Does anybody have like questions like, well, at the beginning you talked about having a undead necromancer and an undead hating paladin work together. Like none of the things that you mentioned actually address that issue.
I mean, the way you address that issue is by having a shared stake.
Yep.
And a character-driven goal.
Right. So even if they are would normally be enemies, would normally be opposed to each other, the thing that they are up against is big enough that they can set aside those things, right? And that is definitely a session 0 before the characters are introduced situation, right? If somebody says, man, I haven't gotten to play D&D in forever, I really want to play a lawful good paladin who is like just unwavering in his lawful goodness, right? And you're like, I hate that, but let's ask the rest of the group and see how they feel about it. And if everybody's okay with making it happen, we could try to make it happen. And then you talk to the rest of the group, and someone's like, well, I'm going to play a gnoll who escaped from a cult of demon-worshipping gnolls, but because he grew up there, his base instinct is always to, like, cannibalize the dead and do all sorts of, like, problematic stuff. Is that okay? Because I'll let you play your paladin if you let me play my cannibal gnoll. And then the paladin player and the cannibal gnoll player, like, staring each other down like, you son of a bitch. You know what I'm saying? You as the DM, as the organizer of the game, as the arbiter of the rules, and as the referee of a good time, you need to be the one that says, whoa, both of these characters sound like they're going to be an absolute mess. Let's find out what the other players have to say about it, right? And then someone says, I'm just going to play Naruto. Just actual Naruto. That's who I'm playing. And it's like, cool. All right, what about the rest of you? And then, you know what? If everybody is like, okay, we're all going to play these crazy, problematic characters, how do we make it work, right? How do we make it work? We really want to do this. You talk it out as a group, and you say, okay, well, here's the thing. In this campaign, there is a great evil that is so big and so terrible that your personal beliefs and your petty squabbles are nothing compared to that. And so you can reference those things. And you could occasionally engage in a couple of, like, I don't know, I don't like that. But at the end of the day, you all agree that we're going to try and do this campaign, yeah? We're all going to try to do this campaign. Okay. So I wanted to ask about Wild Magic and Alcazar. The design of it feels like giving players an irresponsible feature. I see. I actually mentioned this. In a couple of different chats that Alcazar was a terrible decision for me to learn Pathfinder on. And when I do a post-mortem for Alcazar, I'm going to go into detail about why it was a terrible choice for my first Pathfinder module to DM, because I don't know anything about Pathfinder because of the way I'm doing Outlaws Alcazar. I don't know how magic system's supposed to work. I don't know how critical hit system's supposed to work. Like, nothing makes any sense to me, because as Dom pointed out last night to me when we were talking about it, it is an uncommon campaign. Everything about it is uncommon. Yeah, so it's definitely not the best one to learn the system on. That's for sure. But it's been a lot of fun, so that's cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Any closing comments, Dom?
One more thing about that paladin and necromancer.
Okay.
I would probably make those characters have that interconnected backstory.
Oh, beautiful.
I would make them be the ones that have the connection.
Get along shirt from the get-go. Twin brothers. Brothers. Oh man. Mm-hmm. The one undead that he's willing to abide because it's his twin brother who he thought he lost forever. Mm-hmm. Oh man, yeah.
That way it makes it's okay for him to, like, every other undead, kill on sight. But this one, you know what? Yeah. Okay, I'm compromised here, but it's okay.
And the lore of most games has some way to bullshit your way around this, guys. If you want to be a necromancer in the same party as a paladin who hates undead in Forgotten Realms, you just work for Kelemvor. Kelemvor is the god of balanced death. Like, he is the true neutral god of death. Like, he's like, you can go out and make undead servants as long as you are stopping sentient evil undead. Well, now you're still a necromancer, but you're a good, quote-unquote, good guy necromancer, and you could argue with the paladin, I'm just borrowing these bodies to accomplish the greater good, right? Like, the Vecnas of the world, the big bad vampires and liches. That's who I'm after, right? Like, who cares about skeletons and zombies, dude? At the end of the day, we need to go after the big fish, right? Then the paladin's like, you're right. What am I thinking? Why am I wasting my time and energy being upset about a skeleton or a zombie when we have real things we got to deal with? So like there are ways to make these things work, and all that comes down to communication, good session zero, strong group, foundation,
and expectations.
Absolutely, ad nauseum, the number one. Yeah, it always comes down to the same stuff, guys. Always comes down to the same stuff. All right, I hope everybody has a great weekend. We're gonna not have a VodCast next Friday. I got to go to an art gala for my kids' art school thingy. But the following Friday, we should be back in action. Lots of interesting stuff happening on the server. If you're looking for people to play games with, games to join, looking to run games, hit up the server, hit up some mods. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great Friday night, a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Ready. Take care.
All right. Sounds good.